Welcome to Calmheal. Have you ever felt like you're running from something? Stress, fear, or even yourself? I did, until one rainy afternoon in New York changed everything. As the Buddha once said, peace comes from within, not from chasing the world. Today, I'll share a simple moment that stopped me in my tracks, a Buddhist lesson that woke me up. What if the answer to all our struggles isn't out there, but right here, in this very breath? Stick around to find out how I stopped running, and how you can too. That day in New York, I was drowning in chaos. My phone buzzed endlessly with emails, deadlines loomed like dark clouds, and the city's noise swallowed my thoughts. I was 28, chasing a promotion, a bigger apartment, a better me, always running towards something I couldn't name. Exhausted, I stumbled into a small bookstore, seeking shelter from the rain. There, a book caught my eye, The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching. I flipped it open, and one line hit me hard. There is no path to peace. Peace is the path. It felt like the world paused. I sat on a worn wooden bench, rain tapping the window, and read more. The Buddha taught that we suffer because we cling to desires, fears, even time. I thought about my life. The late nights at work, the stress eating away at me, the endless race to prove myself. Was I running toward happiness or away from stillness? The book didn't judge, it just asked me to look inside. So, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and tried something simple, feeling the air move in, then out. For the first time in months, I wasn't chasing anything. The store's quiet hum wrapped around me like a blanket. I remembered a story from the Buddha's life, how he sat under the Bodhi tree, facing every fear, every doubt, until he found clarity. He didn't run, he stayed. That hit me. I'd been sprinting through life, thinking the next milestone would fix everything. But what if I stopped? What if, instead of chasing, I just sat with what was? My chest felt lighter, like a knot unraveling. I wasn't a monk or some enlightened soul, just a tired New Yorker with wet shoes and a racing mind. But that moment planted a seed. The rain slowed, and I stepped outside, noticing things I'd ignored. The smell of wet pavement, the soft glow of streetlights, a stranger's smile. The Buddha called this mindfulness, being awake to the present, not lost in the past or future. It wasn't magic, it was real, raw, and right there. Later, I learned a simple practice from that book, breathing with intention. Try it now. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Feel your shoulders drop, your mind settle. It's not about escaping life's mess. It's about meeting it with calm. Back then, I didn't know how much that day would shift me. But it was the start of something, a crack in the wall I'd built around myself. Looking back, I see how we're all running in some way, toward goals, away from pain, through crowded days. The Buddha's wisdom isn't about quitting life. It's about living it fully, one breath at a time. That rainy afternoon didn't solve my problems, but it showed me a different way to walk through them. And maybe, just maybe, it can show you too. After that rainy day, I didn't become a Buddhist overnight. Life still roared around me, subway delays, work stress, bills piling up. But something lingered, a quiet nudge to slow down. I started carving out 5 minutes each morning to sit and breathe. No candles, no fancy cushions, just me, my coffee mug, and the hum of the city outside. The Buddha once said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." I'd spent years thinking I wasn't enough, too slow, too flawed. Now, I wondered, what if I let those thoughts pass like clouds? At first, it felt awkward. My mind raced. Did I forget to email my boss? What's for lunch? But I kept going, gently bringing my focus back to my breath. Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh calls this coming home, returning to the present, where life actually happens. One morning, I noticed the warmth of the mug in my hands, the distant honk of a taxi, the rise and fall of my chest. I wasn't fixing anything, I was just there, and somehow felt like enough. Days turned into weeks, and I saw changes. At work, I'd pause before snapping at a rude email, taking a breath instead. Traffic jams didn't unravel me as much. I'd watch people rush by and feel oddly calm. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from resisting what is, fighting reality instead of flowing with it. I'd always battled my limits, my mistakes. Now, I tried meeting them with a softer gaze, like greeting an old friend. One evening, I walked through Central Park, leaves crunching underfoot. A kid ran past, laughing, chasing a kite. I stopped, struck by how free he looked, untangled from worry. I thought of a Buddhist prayer I'd read. May I be at ease. May I be free from suffering. It wasn't about perfection. It was about peace, moment by moment. I sat on a bench, closed my eyes, and let the sounds wash over me. Wind, voices, my own heartbeat. This wasn't escape. It was waking up. I started noticing how much I'd missed, how sunlight spilled through my window, how a deep breath could steady me before a big meeting. Mindfulness wasn't a cure-all. My inbox still overflowed, and I still forgot things. But it gave me space, a gap between chaos and my reaction. The Buddha said, "In this very body, you can find enlightenment." I didn't need a mountain retreat. I had this breath, this step, this life. Try it yourself. Next time you're stressed, pause. Feel your feet on the ground, the air on your skin. Count 5 breaths, slow and steady. It's simple, but it shifts something. That's what I learned. Peace isn't a destination. It's a choice, hidden in the ordinary. Those 5 minutes each day became my anchor, a reminder that I didn't have to run anymore. Months later, that rainy day's seed took root. Stress lingered, but awareness grew. One night, I fought with a friend over a missed call, anger flaring. Normally, I'd stew for days. This time I paused. The Buddha said anger burns us first. I sat, breathed, and felt it fade. Not gone, but softer. I saw my patterns, scrolling to dodge silence, working late to avoid thoughts. Zenteachings call the mind a restless monkey. In traffic, I caught myself tense, then let go, noticing the vast sky. That shift freed me. Work piled up once, panic rising. I recalled a Buddhist prayer, patience, strength. I sat outside, breathed, and faced it calmer. This wasn't constant calm, just returning. In Brooklyn, I joined a meditation group, strangers breathing together. Someone said, "The present's our only home." It stuck. Washing dishes, I felt the water. Walking, I heard my steps. The Buddha said, "Each moment's a beginning." That turned days alive. Try this. Name 5 things you see, 4 you hear, 3 you feel. It grounds you. After that fight, I did. Lamp, couch, clock, fridge hum, traffic, cushion, air, heartbeat. I stopped running from hurt and found peace in the mess. Mindfulness became my lifeline. Visiting my parents upstate, I sat by a lake, watching ripples, feeling the breeze. My dad noticed I was calmer. The Buddha said, "Rest in now." I did. Back in New York, a project flopped. My fault. Old me would have spiraled. Now, I walked, breathed, asked, "What's the lesson?" Failure felt like a wave, not a wall. Friends saw me lighter. The Buddha taught clinging ties us down. Letting go freed me. At a cafe, I watched the rush, content in my rhythm. One night, a Buddhist prayer hit me. May all be happy. I'd forgotten others were running too. I smiled at a cashier, left a bigger tip, small ripples. Time shifted. Before, hours were a race. Now, I let them breathe. In line, I felt my feet, heard the chatter, eased impatience. The Buddha said, "Only now is real." I lived it, one breath at a time. Try this. Don't grab your phone waiting. Feel your body. Listen. That lake, that failure taught me peace hides in busy cracks. A year after that rainy day, I hit a wall. Winter came hard. Gray skies, long nights, and a quiet ache I couldn't name. I'd built this calm routine, but suddenly, it felt fragile. One morning, I overslept, missed my meditation, and snapped at a coworker over nothing. Guilt crept in. Had I lost it all? The Buddha said, "Impermanence is the nature of all things. Nothing stays." I'd known that in my head, but now I felt it. Peace wasn't a trophy to keep, but a river to ride, even when it turned rough. I sat with that ache, not pushing it away. Zen teachings talk about sitting with what is, no fixing, just being. So, I brewed tea, dimmed the lights, and let the sadness hum. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a soft weight, like snow piling up. I breathed into it, slow and steady, watching thoughts drift. I'm failing. I'm alone. They passed, like cars outside my window. For once, I didn't run from the dark. I stayed, and it softened. That week, I went back to the Brooklyn group. A monk there shared a story. The Buddha once held up a flower, smiled, and said nothing. One disciple understood. Truth isn't in words, but presence. I closed my eyes, felt the room's stillness, the shared breath. My ache didn't vanish, but it found company. We're all carrying something, I realized. Grief, doubt, hope, and that's okay. Spring broke through eventually, and so did I. One afternoon, sunlight spilled across my floor, warm and gold. I stood there, barefoot, feeling it on my skin, hearing kids laugh outside. The Buddha taught that joy and pain dance together. Neither lasts, but both matter. I'd been so afraid of losing peace. I'd missed how it shifts, not breaks. That day, I smiled at the mess of me. Imperfect, alive, enough. I started sharing this with others. A friend, buried in finals, called me stressed. I told her, pause, feel your breath, let it anchor you. She laughed, tried it, and said it helped. Another time, I left a note for my doorman. Breathe today, you've got this. And he grinned later, said it made his shift lighter. The Buddha's wisdom isn't just for us. It ripples out, quiet but real. Here's something simple. When you're low, find one thing, a tree, a song, your own pulse, and rest there. It's not about forcing happy. It's about touching now. That winter taught me peace isn't perfect days. It's showing up, even when you stumble. I stopped running from myself that year and found I could walk with anything. 2 years in, I wasn't the same person who stumbled into that bookstore. Life still threw curves, lost a job, moved apartments, caught a cold that wouldn't quit. But I'd stopped seeing them as failures to outrun. The Buddha said, in the end, only 3 things matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, how gracefully you let go. I carried that like a compass, not a rule book. One snowy night, jobless, I watched flakes fall outside, sipped tea, and felt oddly okay. Not fixed, just present. I leaned harder into mindfulness. Waiting for a train, I'd count breaths instead of checking my phone. 5, 10, a dozen. The platform's chaos faded. I heard my own rhythm. Zenteachings call this everyday enlightenment. No mountain cave needed, just this step, this air. A delayed train once unraveled me. Now, I'd smile at the irony, feel the cold bite my nose, and wait. Peace wasn't loud. It was in those gaps, soft and steady. People asked how I stayed calm. I'd shrug, breathing, noticing, letting go. A coworker, frazzled by a deadline, saw me pause mid-chaos and tried it too. Later, she said, it's like a reset button. I nodded. The Buddha taught that we're all capable of waking up, not saints, just humans willing to stop. I wasn't special. I just found a thread and kept pulling. One day, I revisited that bookstore. The same book sat on the shelf, worn but waiting. I flipped to a line. Happiness is here, if you stop running to find it. I grinned. Ironic how I'd raced past that truth. Outside, rain tapped the street, just like before. I stood under an awning, watching drops ripple in puddles, feeling my breath sink with the world. It wasn't the end of struggle, it was the start of ease. I shared more, small acts, like leaving a note for a stranger. You're enough, breathe. Or sitting with a friend through her breakup, not fixing, just listening. The Buddha's wisdom grew roots beyond me. Compassion wasn't grand, it was quiet. A smile, a pause, a wish for peace. That Buddhist prayer stuck. May all beings be happy. I'd think it on the subway, watching tired faces, hoping it landed somewhere. Here's a final practice. Wherever you are, feel your hands. Warm, tense, still. Let them relax. Then your shoulders, your jaw. Take 3 slow breaths. It's tiny, but it's yours. That's what I learned. Peace isn't a finish line. It's a choice, woven into days I once ran through. I stopped running, and life opened up. Looking back, that rainy day didn't erase my struggles. It taught me to walk with them. The Buddha's wisdom isn't about perfection. It's about presence, meeting life as it is, one breath at a time. I stopped running from chaos, from myself, and found peace in the ordinary. A quiet morning, a stranger's smile, a slow exhale. It's not a fix, it's a shift. Zen teachings remind us, the treasure's here, not out there. What about you? Where are you running? What might happen if you paused, right now, and felt this moment? It's yours to try. This journey showed me we don't need to escape to heal. We need to arrive. Try it today. Sit for 5 minutes. Feel your breath. Let your mind settle. Notice how it changes you, even slightly. Peace grows in those small steps, not grand leaps. So, take one, breathe, begin. What's one thing you could stop chasing to find calm? If this story touched you, share it with someone who's running too. We all need a nudge toward peace. Loved it? Let me know below. What's your moment of stillness? Try that practice and tell me how it feels. For more calm, hit subscribe on Calmheal. Let's walk this path together.